is to not underestimate the value of goodwill in a real estate transaction. So obviously, when people are negotiating, during that time, you are not speaking directly to each other, the buyer and the seller aren't, and they may never. But at that point, when they're negotiating price or other terms, there is some, not combativeness, but you're sort of on different sides. Once an agreement has been arrived at, though, then everybody's kind of on the same page because all of the parties want to get to the settlement table as smoothly as possible. So when I said don't underestimate goodwill, what do I mean when I say goodwill? I mean things like whether it's during the negotiation period or after. If somebody needs a little extra time to get back to someone else, or someone asks, as far as one of the terms, instead of settling on the 24th, is there any way you could do the 22nd? Yes, we could. Things that maybe matter to one party and don't really make much of a difference to the other are good examples of these things. If you, whether you're the buyer or the seller, can accommodate the other party in a way that doesn't negatively affect you, it might be a really good idea. Why? Because later you might need something, and if you've put a little bit of goodwill into the goodwill pot, you're more likely to get some back. So one of the things that can happen is that after a settlement date has been chosen and everything's been signed, things happen. Someone didn't call their mover early enough and they can't make the moving date that they were going to. So it's not unusual that either party might want to change the settlement date by a couple of days. If there's some goodwill that's already been established, it's much more likely that the person who's being asked to change the date will try to make that work. Sometimes buyers want to get contractors or interior designers or other people into the house, or maybe they want to take measurements so they can order furniture, or their family is in town for the weekend and they're so excited they want to show their family members the house they're going to buy. If they haven't stipulated those extra visits in the contract, the seller's not required to let them in. But if they've put a little bit of goodwill in the pot, it's much more likely the sellers will. One of the areas where this whole goodwill thing can come up is when it comes to sellers leaving some of their furnishings or possessions behind. Sometimes this really benefits the buyer. Sometimes it really benefits the seller. Sometimes it's both. So there may be something that a seller was not planning to leave, but now determines won't work in their new home or something like that. If they say to the buyer, would you be okay if I left this item, and it's something that the buyer could use, again, the buyer's more likely to say, yes, sure, that's fine, you can leave it, even if they're not sure they're going to use it, if there's been some goodwill established. If it's been a contentious transaction and the buyer does not particularly need whatever item the seller's offering to leave, it's much more likely that buyer's going to say, nope, you have to get it out of there. We didn't put it in the contract. So give goodwill where you can, and it's very likely it will come back around and pay you back.